We finally got our first in-depth look at Tears of the Kingdom's gameplay, and there were a ton of new details to pick apart. But as a combat expert in Breath of the Wild, I'm going to focus specifically on Link's new battling abilities, both in tangible information and on theorizing possibilities you may have missed. If you enjoy in-depth breakdowns like this, let us know by liking this video. The combat portion starts around when Link approaches this tree branch, lighter in color to match these lighter colored trees in these sky biomes. In this game, like the previous game, it's highly likely to have 2 attack power. This is also when Link is approached by a new enemy called a Soldier Construct, which is also wielding an identical tree branch. It goes on the offensive and attacks Link but gets staggered immediately. This is already decent information because it can show us some early damage numbers in this part of the game without directly telling us. Without going too in depth on how blocking types are calculated, all enemies have a base attack, then that's added to the weapon's additional attack. If your enemy's output is higher than your shield, it will continue to attack without stagger. So in this example, this shows that this shield must at absolute minimum have more than 2 defense power. For continuity's sake of canonical equipment, it's safe to say that this shield probably mirrors the stats of Breath of the Wild's starting equipment, the Traveler's Shield, which has 4 shield strength. In a clip later on, a construct attacks Link with a wooden stick that has 4 attack, and hits Link's mushroom-equipped shield without staggering, so this could mean that constructs have a base attack of 1, added to the wooden club's 4 damage to overcome Link's shield without being staggered. Side note, with this clip, we have yet to see if sneak strike chaining is still a thing, the ability to chain multiple sneak attacks over and over by wrapping around to the other side. Because his construct was taken out with one shot, it was hard to tell, but this mechanic might return. Now, Link flips to the offensive, and we can clearly calculate damage from here. The standard branch combo does 2 damage per swing, with the final swing breaking for a critical hit leading to double damage. These critical strikes can also disarm enemies, which Link then quickly steals the enemy's branch. This causes the construct to get angry, which is the same mechanic in Breath of the Wild's enemies. Then with another 3 strikes for a total of 16 damage, you can take out the Soldier Construct. Link then picks up his materials, which includes a Soldier Construct's horn, which we'll see again later in the video. This part is likely to become many players' favorite addition, the Fuse ability. From the looks of it, this ability auto-targets close materials, and gives you the option to fuse it with your weapon or your shield. This seems to reset, or more likely, just add additional durability to the weapon you currently have, which after many players' complaints about weapon durability is likely to be a welcome change. If you look closely, there are small numbers you can see to show the damage changes as well, with a +2 indicator and a small outline of 4 next to it, meaning the 2 attack power branch gains an additional 2 attack with the boulder, resulting in a weapon of 4 attack power total. As a side note, the developers have a similar setup here as to the Great Plateau, with boulders precariously placed above enemies to give you the option to push them onto unsuspecting enemies below. Link then instead approaches the constructs head on. Since they have 16 HP and you have a 4 attack power weapon, it only takes 4 hits to take them down. At this point, you're probably starting to think about the possibilities you could make with multiple weapons and materials getting stuck together, along with many questions, such as what would happen if you fuse 2 almost broken weapons together. Does it reset the durability or add them together? We still haven't seen fused weapons break yet, so does the tip portion break separately? Can the handle portion break as you drop the tipped half? Can you unfuse weapons back apart like you did with this raft? Does fusing onto an already fused weapon replace the modification or add to it? Because there was an option to do that here, but Aonuma passed that up when he attached the rock to the shield instead. Can you fuse together magical wands? I'm sure you can attach a flame blade onto a stick, but what happens on the other way around? Or a metal weapon onto a thunder blade? Can we fuse ingredients onto weapons as well as shields? How do these all work with boomerangs? Does it affect the boomerang's ability to fly or its attacking width? While this mechanic has huge possibilities, it leaves us with many questions that I'm sure the developers have worked hard to figure out over the past 6 years. Finally, let's talk about bow and arrow gameplay. One thing that sticks out to me immediately is the quick menu system. In Breath of the Wild, the D-pad normally shows shields, runes, and weapons. And when you draw a bow, the D-pad quick menu shifts to arrows, runes, and bows. This time in Tears of the Kingdom, it's now shields, materials, and weapons. And when a bow is equipped, only the bow quick menu is affected. This means that either A, elemental arrows are out of the picture entirely and are replaced by attachable choo-choo jellies, or B, elemental arrows are still an option, but are instead considered a material you get later on. The quick menu pulled up here only shows a few materials, but still shows quite a bit. The soldier's construct horn we picked up earlier is attachable, and now the amber material has taken a new shape as an arrowhead. It's safe to say that all the gems in the game are like this now, and I'm guessing diamond-tipped arrowheads are a thing that may pack a punch. One theory is that these gems will do as much additional damage as they sell for rupees, which could play into a nice gamble of push and pull with your wallet versus your damage. Or it could go back to how they originally planned to use these gems, as elemental arrowheads, since they used to have elemental properties early in Breath of the Wild's development. He then switches over to a Korok frond, not to be confused with a Korok leaf, because this Korok material is considered a healing item. Then he switches back over to the white choo-choo jelly to simulate an ice arrow. White jelly's freezing explosions do 10 damage normally, so a combination of this bow's strength and the supposed bonus damage you receive when equipping these materials kills the 16 HP enemy immediately. The closest we ever got to something like this in Breath of the Wild was using Korok leaves and balloons, stasis, or using item drop glitches to throw them a certain distance. Directly attaching these effects to arrows opens up a whole new layer of combat that was much harder to access before. We then get a second look at the key's eyeball attachment from a previous trailer, which automatically homes in on enemies. This is definitely most useful when performing non-bullet time combat, when it's difficult to aim quickly in real time. It's still difficult to know how this mechanic works, if it prioritizes wildlife or enemies first, or whatever just comes into its range before. Either way, this gives keys much higher value to hunt down and farm. Finally, I want to briefly touch upon Ultrahand. At first glance, yes, this is a crafting ability, not designed for combat. But players who have played the game long enough know that this kind of ability can come in clutch when tied with Breath of the Wild's amazing engine, to drop objects onto enemies. The fact that this ability is not tied to only magnetic objects anymore opens up a lot of opportunities to use more of the environment as your personal bat, especially when paired together with the motion control option, which can lead to nauseous but high damage situations. While we saw the basics of combat here, they still haven't shown their hand in any trailers of the advanced techniques with any slowdown abilities, such as parrying, flurry rushes, or bullet time. But something tells me they have something up their sleeve. We'll see soon enough. Hopefully you enjoyed this breakdown of what we've seen in the latest gameplay trailer. When Tears of the Kingdom launches, we'll have a host of video guides and a new series of things you didn't know. So stick around here on GameSpot.